Alright, good morning YouTube. In today's video, we're going to be doing a Q&A. So this is to make up for yesterday's video. Yesterday was Veterans Day, so if you have served or are currently serving, thank you for your service. So let's get into the video. First question comes from Nimo Paros. I don't know why I said that with a Spanish accent. I'm learning Spanish right now, but I don't know. Anyway, is there a way to substitute the exercises done on machines and cables with other exercises as I'm training at home and do not have the machinery needed? So yes, you can substitute, replace, and make any adjustment you want to any program that I put out, so long as the exercise that you're choosing is similar in, like, let's say loading parameters or as close as you can to that. So what do I mean? If you don't have pieces of equipment available, what you should be focusing on is what exercises do you have available that accomplish the same exact goal. If you want to build your back, whether you can do any form of rowing, you can do any form of vertical pulls, whether that be lat pull downs if you have a pulley machine that you can install onto your power rack, or if all you can do are pull-ups. With that being the case, it's not so much about having all exercises under the sun available to you. It's more so about having any exercise that you do have available to you done with the greatest amount of effort and progression as possible. So you can replace anything. So if you're training at home, the number one thing that you want to be keeping in mind is just the fact that if you are unable to do certain exercises, don't think to yourself that I'm getting less gains because I don't have that exercise available. That kind of thinking is very counterproductive for your own programming and maybe even your wallet, because then you'll be inclined to think that I need to get this piece of equipment, I need to get this piece of equipment. But here's the thing, the only thing you will gain is a new piece of equipment and nothing else. Whether or not you actually apply the amount of effort and progression to your movements depends solely on your attitude in the gym, in the moment of the workout, right? So just keep that in mind. Next question comes from Dooku. I am trying to get into fitness. I am currently getting exercise through competitive sports and speed/agility training. The thing I'm lacking is strength and my desirable physique. Do you recommend any plan? I'm new to the gym and my form needs improvement on squats, deadlifts, etc. So when it comes to form improvements, I do recommend that you actually do either get a coach or literally record every single set. If you're doing the deadlift, record it from the side, so that way you can see your back angle, where your hips are, maybe like to the side and a little bit behind the bar, just to see if you're holding the bar tight enough to the body, because the plates might get in the way from that. So recording your sets or getting a coach, those are going to be the most important things. Now, I want to be very clear on coach. I don't want to say a personal trainer, because the quality of personal trainers is just too wide and variable. Some of them are great, some of them are just straight up dog shit. So me personally, being have been a personal trainer, I did recently decide to take a step back from personal training for a variety of different reasons, but one of them is the fact that it's just too varied. Some trainers just suck. So I would recommend you talk to someone who knows what they're doing, even if it's literally the dude who is just squatting, benching, and deadlifting heavy and is not an employee. Go to him. He might actually know more than the local PT who thinks that deadlifts aren't worth it because you're going to destroy your spine. You don't need to squat below 90% because the muscle activation or whatever bullshit. And if you bench, you want to go, you don't need to go, you just want to go until your arms are parallel to the floor or some shit. And don't touch the bar to your chest. There are too many damn trainers who are like that. So I'm kind of averse to saying go to a PT. There are a lot of good trainers, so kind of like talk to them a little bit and see like, well, what do you think about this? And you know, I'm going to be making a video talking about personal trainer red flags, because I think that's a meme right now, red flags. But anyway, also because there should be a vetting process on both sides. A coach should determine whether or not if you need a coach, whether or not the coaching that they can offer is for you. So for example, if someone comes to me and asks, okay, I want to become like a state record holding runner, I'm not going to know much about that, quite honestly. I'm not going to know very much of that at all. So I'm going to tell them, hey, I actually know just enough about running to get someone fit, but for your purposes, I don't know. So I'm going to have to refer you to someone else. That's what I would have to do in that circumstance. But a lot of PTs are like, oh no, I can do that. Yeah. No, they can't. No, they can't. But so yes, get a coach who knows what they're doing, whether or not they're a personal trainer or just the guy who actually looks like he knows what he's doing, right? If he looks like he's performing squats, benches, and deadlifts the way that the people you look up to are performing the squats, benches, and deadlifts, ask him some questions, man. Next, so as far as like, lacking strength in your desirable physique, I don't know how old you are. Strength and your physique oftentimes is just kind of comes down to time and effort. If you obviously you can waste time, wasting time is very doable, which is why I recommend getting access to a coach. Even like myself, if you are open to online coaching, there are many coaches who are very great online, such as myself. Vaz Lifts, he's a great coach as well. I've worked with him. I have like some micro coaching with from Steve Shaw. So there are a lot of great coaches out there available. Jeffrey Verity Schofield, I think Alpha Destiny still does some coaching services. And Brian Alsru. Like there are so many sources for online access to this knowledge that is super easy to get. So get in contact with a coach when it comes down to the form. Now, when it comes to strength training and the programmings or programs that I recommend, I recently did a review of the TSA 9-week beginner powerlifting program, which is actually a great program. I also have a lot of free novice programs available onto the channel right here. So there is a strength focused hypertrophy or strength focused power building program, and then there's a hypertrophy focused power building program, as well as just the standard novice program that I have on this channel. So there are 3 novice programs that I put on this channel for a couple different reasons. One, just kind of like as an all-arounder, like jack of all trades program, and then if you do have a more clear distinction of what you want your goals to be, then there's programs for that as well. So I would recommend any one of those programs. They are available on the channel for free, and I am putting together an ebook, putting all 3 of those all 3 of those programs into the same PDF file, so that way it's available for quick and easy access. So the TSA, but to give you like just a more concise answer, look for a coach, either myself or like I highly recommend Steve Shaw, Fast Lifts, Jeffrey Verity Schofield. He's not too focused into strength training, but he's still very knowledgeable in the fact that you do need to get stronger, right? So I would recommend him. And then for programs, TSA 9-week beginner program, or any of the programs you find on this channel. Texas Method is another good one. All right, next. This next question comes from Aaron. So I hope you don't like hate me for saying that, but I remember that skit from Key and Peele. But anyway, so Aaron asks, what exercise do you think I should do to get better at squats, the gym? So what exercise do you think I should do to get better at squats in the gym? I'm guessing here doesn't have it. Oh, the gym here doesn't have it. Okay. It has a Smith machine and a free motion squat. Which one do you think I should do? Or is there another one I should do? So here, this kind of touches back into the first question from Nemo Paros, which is, if you don't have something available to you, just do it the best with what you have. And I mean, literally, that is unfortunately or fortunately the best answer I can provide. You don't have access to a barbell back squat. So get your quads as strong as possible. Do Smith machine squats. Do free motion squats. Do both. In times of let's say times of necessity, times of scarcity, you can't really be picky. Do both. That's the most appropriate answer when you have limitations such as this. Do Smith machine squats, do free motion squats, do goblet squats, do anything you possibly can do to kind of have carryover to that motion, so that way when you do join a gym, which I feel like you're working out at a Planet Fitness if it doesn't have Power Rack. So when you actually join a real gym, because Planet Fitness is a scam, when you have the funds or when you have the access to that equipment, you will have benefited from the squats, the Smith machine squats, the free motion squats, the goblet squats. You're going to benefit from all of that, quite honestly. It's not going to be a clear-cut carryover, but at least you're not going to have weak quads when you do finally get that access. Next question comes from Alex. He says, hey, Karel, I have been doing your program for a bit now, and it's great so far. Thank you. So really appreciate the feedback, really appreciate you running the program. However, I'm not a big fan of dips as they hurt my sternum. That's pretty common. Can I replace them with push-ups? What rep range should I stop doing the push-ups body weight and start adding weight? So yes, you can definitely replace these with push-ups. I actually answered this question to him directly on Instagram. So if you do send me a message, I'm going to answer them in the comments. I'm not just gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna add that to my next Q&A. I might if it's like a long question, but generally speaking, I'm going to answer it when you ask it to me, in the comments below or in my Instagram DMs. So yes, you can replace dips with push-ups. Now, a couple questions that come to mind here is, why is this exercise like contra? I forgot the word. Anyway, why is this exercise not agreeing with you, right? Is your form right? Because the thing is, like, I do 100% believe that there are some exercises that just don't agree with everyone. I hate lunges for a variety of different reasons. Not just because of some knee issues that I personally have, but also just even before that, I never really liked lunges. Let me close my window real quick. And I'm back. So yeah, I never really liked lunges. They were just never an exercise that agreed with me, and I'm not going to force my body to conform to an exercise that hurts it, you know? So if there is an exercise that hurts you, stop doing it, but try to figure out why. Try to make sure that it's not just, oh, I just don't like it, or oh, squats hurt me, but then if I look at your squat form and it's complete ass, I'm going to say, well, have you tried fixing it? And then and let's say you have fixed your squat, you know, it's no longer just like all over the place. Your foot placement, the way you push out your knees and everything like that is all good, and it still hurts. All right, cool. You don't need to do squats if it's not something important to you. Now, if you're a power lifter, we're gonna need to find something for you, but that's a whole separate point. But there's no such thing as an exercise you absolutely need to do, especially if it's hurting you. So yes, you can definitely replace it with push-ups. Next is asking, what rep range should I stop doing push-ups, body weight, and then start adding weight? For me, I think 30 is actually a good one, just because the amount of weight you're using isn't really that much. The the amount of weight you're using really isn't that much. Anything above 30, like in my opinion, just becomes pure endurance. Having been in the army and having, like, maxed out my push-ups a couple times on the old APFT, not the CFT. For the purposes of hypertrophy, I think 30 is a good cutoff point to start adding load. Now, when it comes to push-ups, another thing I would recommend is doing different variations. Now, when it comes to variations, I think, or variations of the push-up or calisthenics movements in particular, you want to make sure that the variations for calisthenic exercises don't add an element of technique. Meaning, I'm not going to recommend someone do archer push-ups or Russian push-ups. I think those movements, they have like a bit of a mobility and technique aspect to them that is just absent in just your standard push-up. Doing a push-up with your hands on an elevated surface, doing push-ups with your feet on an elevated surface, and then doing push-ups where hands and feet are elevated. And then to allow the use of weights, so like a weight vest, a weight backpack, or something like that. So 30 once you can do 30 reps, start adding weight so that way it brings it closer to that 10 to 20 range. You can go lower than that. I personally wouldn't, because I just think there's better exercises for lower rep ranges below 10. Push-ups, I think, is fine within that 10 to 30 range. And then from there, so start out with your standard push-ups. Get to be able to do like 3 sets of 30, right? Once you can do that, put your feet on an elevated surface. Again, try to get 3 sets of 30. Then, once you can do that in those situations, put your hands on an elevated surface, like maybe 2 boxes, so that way your chest can go below your hands. And then, same thing, 3 sets of 30. Once you're done there, start adding weight, because now you're in a position where if you start adding weight, the weight's not going to decrease the range of motion, because even if you use a weighted vest and you're doing just standard push-ups, you're adding mass here. So when you say, like, beat your chest, bring the chest to the floor, if you have a weighted vest or something like that and you're not on an elevated surface, you're going to decrease the range of motion. So I'd recommend that you go from there. So that's the progression for that question. Next question comes from Roshan Tour. Hi, in the beginning of the video, you stated that if someone is unable to bench at least 245, squat 275, and deadlift 315, they should do a novice program. And let me try to remember what video this is actually on, if I can pull that up. Let me pause real quick. Okay, so that video actually comes from my intermediate program. So I think that those strength standards still stand. I The thing is, like, 225 in my opinion is like very, very doable for most guys. So I might be biased, but I think 225 still might be like that intermediate mark. But here's the thing: doing different kinds of programming doesn't, like, once you hit these numbers, there's no guarantee that you're just straight up an intermediate. If you can still use novice methods of progression, you're still a novice, because let's say your strength potential is like this fucking big, and like your novice progression will last until around here. Like, you're already going to be a lot stronger than most people are when they're intermediates. It's like, the thing is, like, beyond strength standards, obviously strength standards are very useful. They provide us great landmarks and whatnot, but it's not like once you hit 225 you're just going to suddenly stop being able to use linear progression. It's not like once you hit 275 squat you're going to suddenly need to use an intermediate program. It's maybe on average that's the case, that's going to that your program methods will need to change, and you need to kind of extend your training periods. But generally speaking, like, if you're still making good linear progress, just keep going. And here's the thing: you might run into an issue where you're actually not able to complete linear progress again, even before those numbers: a 245 bench, a 275 squat, a 315 or 365 deadlift. So when it comes to programming methods, it's just whether or not they apply to you at that certain point in time. It's regardless of the number. But here's the thing: I would be, in terms of like just pure strength, yes, I think those numbers are really intermediate. When it comes to progression and programming, however, that will depend on the individual. So I think that's kind of complicated, but that's the best I can manage right now as far as an answer. So let's go into the next part of the question. What if you meet the requirements for squat and deadlift but not bench? So let's say you're intermediate for 2 lifts but not for the other. Alex from Alpha Destiny has a novice intermediate hybrid, because it's usually the case that people are not like their lifts grow differently. People are built for different exercises. For me, the bench and the deadlift has always come more naturally. Squatting is my worst exercise. Like, it's just the exercise I have progressed on the worst. It's the form I've never felt comfortable with. It's just the exercise that I had to put the most amount of work in to feel comfortable with, right? But it is my worst lift, quite honestly. So when it comes down to this, if you're novice and intermediate in strength, that doesn't necessarily mean, like I mentioned earlier, that you need to use novice or intermediate programming methods. It's like, if novice programming doesn't work on my squat, I will need to use more intermediate style methods. So that's something to think about there. Would I still recommend doing a novice program? Yes, and here's why. I think that, let's say you do run into that issue, just change the way you progress on that specific lift. Oftentimes, like when it comes to like programming, we think, well, I'm an intermediate now, let me do an intermediate program, and then you just like kind of deadlift yourself into the ground, run yourself into the ground, because, or some other lift just like suffers immensely because you went onto a different style of program too quickly. So I'm not the biggest fan of that. When it comes to programming is a art, a science that you are trying to conduct on yourself. So when you have a program, you modify it. The only time you should really overhaul your training program is if your goals completely change. If you want to prioritize something, if you want to take something out of your training, that's really the only time you should overhaul your program. Oftentimes, if you want, or even if you just want to try out something new completely, those are the times when you want to take something out of your program. Other than that, what you should be doing is just looking at certain lifts, asking yourself, am I progressing? And if the answer is no, think about why in the program and in the context of that day, and change it. Just change that one variable. So these slow variable changes over time gives you better data in the long run, so long as you're keeping good notes and keeping that data like available to you. And then that is what informs better programming decisions as they pertain to you down the line. So yes, I would still recommend you still keep the same program if everything else is still progressing. If you are no longer progressing, that is when you can alter programs or maybe hop onto a different one. So that is my answer there. that is it for this Q&A. Like I said, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Hit me up on Instagram at StanStrength. And if you would like to work with me as a coach or would like to support the channel by buying merch, that is all available. That is all available on my website at the link in the description below. So remember, stand fast, stand strong, start where you stand, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.